Good afternoon to you. Mark Sott of HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion. Sunday, September 22nd, 2019, and the tropics are very busy, just like we thought they would be going into the end of September, and we're just now beginning to see the effects of this strong Madden-Julian oscillation pulse. Basically, the Atlantic Basin and the Eastern Pacific now, all of this area now very favorable for development. With the exception of this one tropical storm over in the West Pac, the Western Pacific is shut down. And usually when this is a big zero, the Atlantic Basin tends to go full tilt, and that is what we are starting to see with several areas of interest, areas that have had impacts and areas that are going to see impacts. So this is the field of players, if you will, and things are going to get really busy. I've been tweeting that it's going to be a long week ahead, and here we go. If your week begins on Sunday, well, this is the start of it. I guess it's all how you look at it. The work week starting Monday, yep, that's going to be a long 5 days as well. So it's just on how you look at it. Nevertheless, here's what we have on the map from the National Hurricane Center. Real quick, let's take a look in the Eastern Pacific. The remnants of Lorena here moving up in the northwest Mexico. There will be an increase in moisture through this area. And there's also a pretty vigorous upper trough and an upper level low pressure area that's going to hang out in the desert southwest Four Corners region. That energy in the upper levels combined with the moisture from Lorena will spell some periods of heavy rain here in the southern deserts of Arizona. So just be mindful of that. Here we have Tropical Depression Mario just off the Baja, so a lot of moisture now. And you remember, I've been talking for the last several weeks that as long as we have high pressure sitting up here, that these systems would develop and stay, out over the open Pacific. But now that we have changed the pattern and we've got this big trough carving out that will stay in place for a while with a ridge downstream of it over this way, a big high pressure over the southeast. High pressure here, low pressure here. Any systems that develop tend to get drawn up this way, and there you go. So no surprises, not unusual. It just can spell trouble for people. So be aware of that situation. In the Atlantic Basin, all kinds of activity to talk about. Let's start with the system way out here in the east. I believe this is Invest Area 90L. It won't be for much longer, as it looks like this is well on its way to becoming a tropical depression and eventually a tropical storm as it moves generally west for now. There's a pretty good break in the ridge sitting out here roughly that should allow this to eventually gain a lot of latitude and turn out. We're going to have enough problems watching Karen and to some extent Jerry over the next few days that I am not too concerned about this system here, 90L, making it over to the United States or first the islands. I've seen some people on Twitter kind of talking about, well, everything's headed out to sea, isn't it? It's like, well, yeah, sure, except Dorian, Imelda, Umberto, whatever. I mean, come on. And Karen last night and today down in Trinidad, Tobago, we have to remember. I guess you don't have to if you live in the lower 48 and that's all you care about. That's your business. I'm not going to judge you for that. But geographically, I want to educate you and just make sure you remember we have Bermuda and the Lesser Antilles down here, our friends in the Greater Antilles. And then when systems curve sharp enough east of the U.S., you have the Canadian Maritimes, all right? And you have the Cabo Verde Islands over here, what we used to call the Cape Verde Islands. So it's important. These systems impact people where people live, all right? So just keep that in mind. So I was trying to figure out how to do this today, and no reason to even look at the tracks right now. We can just look at some of the what's going on, kind of like opening up the window and looking out and discuss things from the model perspective. And today we're going to look at the Euro. So first of all, this is the infrared satellite loop, courtesy of Levi Cowan and his talents at tropicaltidbits.com. Here we have Jerry, and buried up here underneath this cloud cover is Bermuda somewhere. Actually, probably a little bit more to the north up there. Here's Karen, and we're going to take a closer look at Karen in a minute. And then look at this beast out here, 90L. Wow, that is a large tropical wave, and you can see that S shape in the cloud structure. This will become a classic Cape Verde hurricane, or as we call it now, Cabo Verde hurricane, main development region hurricane. For those that were saying that the MDR is dead, it's whatever, well, we've had several systems get born out of there. This will be a real classic one, though, and it'll definitely add to the overall ACE score, the accumulated cyclone energy. That is the equivalent of individual team members, for example, on an NBA basketball team. How many points does Kevin Durant usually score? How many points will Zion Williamson usually score? J.J. Redick, whoever, right? Larry Bird, back when he played, what was his typical scoring power? He brought to the table, and then you add them all up when he played for the Celtics with the rest of the team, and that gave you the team's score for a game, and then it added up for the season and what have you. And sports statistics and hurricane statistics are similar because a well-defined, long-lived hurricane like this is going to be is the equivalent to the Larry Bird or, whoever of basketball. That they're not just a short flash in the pan, whatever, okay? And so this is going to add quite a few points to the overall ACE score for the year. And while some people go, dude, who cares about that? Well, scientists do, because it tells us, and I am a scientist, I'm an earth scientist, I study geography and impacts of weather. So I'm interested in this because it tells us the quality of the storms and hurricanes, especially hurricanes, not just the quantity. And just a real quick reminder, Imelda that made landfall over here a few days ago was a very, very low ACE score. I'd have to look it up. It was just negligible, right? It's the equivalent of some guy going in to play his first year in the NBA or a college player or whatever, and he breaks his leg and he can't fix it and his career is over. And he had a lot of potential. Imelda had a lot of potential had it been farther out and then made landfall, under those perfect conditions. But look what it did. It still caused probably hundreds of millions of dollars in damage from the rain. And it wouldn't surprise me if it surpasses $1 billion. But we'll see. So this is going to be a big ACE producer week coming up with Jerry, Karen, and Lorenzo to be out here. All right, so there's Jerry again. You can see these upper level winds impacting it, some shear impacting Karen. But boy, I tell you what, the pattern is getting ready to flip, and things are going to become very favorable. Now, looking at Karen, you are going to hear and see people saying that, oh, it's an open wave, it's weakening, whatever, it's done, and it's going to get poo-pooed, as we say. It's going to get a lot of downplay. And I understand that because structurally speaking, at the visible satellite animation you see here, it doesn't look very well organized. There is no disputing that. And it's because of this northwesterly shear that's coming down and blowing the convection away from that vigorous low-level center. That being said, there's still a lot of deep tropical moisture through here, and our friends in Trinidad and Tobago can tell you all about that. And this storminess is moving through the rest of the Windward Islands, and it's generally headed off into the direction of the U.S. British Virgin Islands and perhaps Puerto Rico. And it does not have to be well organized, to cause problems. And I'll show you that in just a moment here. In fact, let's do it now. This is from Trinidad and Tobago Weather Center, and look at what's been happening down there. These are all images, both moving and still. I wish it was shot horizontal, but I'll give these folks a pass. Shoot horizontal, please. It just looks better, in my opinion. But look, this is flooding rain. It's not, horrifying, thankfully, but it's bad enough. And you can see these examples here. This is what a poorly organized tropical storm can do. As if we needed reminding after what we saw with, actually a very organized, but, dying tropical system, Imelda, in the United States. These scenes out of Trinidad I do believe. It just in Tobago area. You can read this yourself. Follow TT Weather Center, and there you go. I had to open it in Chrome because I couldn't get the videos to play in Firefox. What's up with that? So this is also a lesson in meteorology once again. Okay, so here's that vigorous low-level swirl. You can see it. Mid-level rotation down here has gotten blown away, whatever, and it's decoupled. Absolutely. It's a weak system in terms of the pressure and the wind field, but if we look below the clouds, through the clouds, at the surface, well, roughly 5,000 feet up, and let me zoom in on this. Look at the structure, and I wish I could take that tropical cyclone symbol out of there. University of Wisconsin site here. You know, it's like if you could toggle that on and off, that would be great. But you can see through there. Look at the signature. It's not all weird looking and elongated like up here, for example. You know, I can't find. You know, it's defined, and that's represented in the discussion from the National Hurricane Center that one of the ASCAP passes, it's a scatterometer pass satellite, showed a very vigorous circulation. So what does that mean for everybody down here, both in the Windward Islands here and later on for our friends downstream, I guess you'd call it? It means that this has a lot of energy to work with. So don't go by the satellite presentation alone and say, oh, gosh, that's nothing. That is a vigorous tropical depression, storm, whatever it is, you know, and it needs to be taken very seriously because that energy is likely going to try to get into an area that's going to be much more favorable. So I will be watching the satellite and the satellite-based vorticity information, you know, here from the University of Wisconsin side over the next few days. And notice, too, Jerry also very concentrated in here, and there's Bermuda, and I think it's looking better for Bermuda. We will get into that in just a moment. So a few things about Jerry and Karen. First of all, Jerry, you know, is going to keep passing up through this area and head out to sea. Passing near Bermuda, maybe we'll see about that. But generally speaking, Jerry is not looking like a big threat to land. And it does have decent upper ocean heat content to work with through here. Let's switch this over to white for just a few minutes. And so it'll probably be a hurricane again. I believe that's Bermuda right there. And, you know, Jerry could pass something like that, maybe even a wider, whatever. It'll probably ramp up a little bit, and as it does so, it will send those swells back out towards the United States again and the Bahamas. So be aware of that. Very careful if you go out surfing, etc. Again, partially the dad in me. I've got kids, and I worry about their safety, and I want you guys to be mindful of that as well, because at the end of the day, I care about you, and I want you to be educated about the hazards, not just the wow factor of these tropical cyclones. And, you know, that will come. Believe me. I think it is anyway. As for Karen, lots and lots of energy for that to work with through here in the Southwest Atlantic. And if you look at the modeling going out several days, which I know you can, yes, even in the areas near the Bahamas and Florida, plenty of upper ocean heat content to work with. And so my point is now, going back to this, that energy down there is hefty, and that's going to work its way up this way and be in a very favorable position, it does appear. So let's get rid of this. And we're going into, because I'm going to look at these frame by frame in a moment, we're going into this Madden-Julian oscillation period coming up where, you know, right now it's amplifying into phase one rather rapidly, and it looks like it dances around and hangs around for the next couple of weeks out to October the 6th. And the fact that it's over here and then it may go into the null phase and it's not amplifying over here means that the Atlantic Basin, especially the western basin, you know, we will have Lorenzo out in the eastern Atlantic, but then it's going to shift, generally speaking, over to the western Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of Mexico, and it will not surprise me to see 2 or 3 intense hurricanes between now and the end of October developing in the western part of the basin. We'll call it west of 70 degrees longitude, south of 30. In that box, if you know your geography, put me down for 3 major hurricanes between now and the end of October. That's what I think's coming, because why not? The pattern would favor it. All right, so looking at the Euro, okay, let's take a look at the latest run. This is the 12Z initialization right there, and this is the analysis, and these show what we have as our players, so to speak, on the field. This is the surface up here, the 1024 millibar high, anchored off the eastern coast of the Carolinas. And there's Jerry hanging on with its vorticity. That's what this shows. This is the cyclonic vorticity and the wind speed in knots, right, and the mean sea level pressure. And so this shows us the structure overall of the 5,000-foot level of the atmosphere. And for me, I really like this as a starting point. We can look at different layers as needed, and in fact we will do that on the last frame that I show you today. So here's the analysis. There is the signature of Karen, and the modeling capturing it really well. And there's the signature of Jerry. Alrighty, so let's look at these day by day. This is Sunday, so here's Monday morning, and look, it shows Jerry really ramping up there, and that's getting it in the modeling there. There's Bermuda. We'll keep Bermuda marked for you. In fact, let me get rid of this and then remark Bermuda. There we go. So that's 24 hours out. You also see Karen down here in the Southeast Caribbean Sea. Not real impressive, but remember, it still has a lot of energy and a lot of rain coming. So by 48 hours out on Tuesday, for our friends in Bermuda, this is a good distance away. The center would be roughly in here. Fairly large overall, but the influences will be far enough away. But I tell you, if this ramps up to a hurricane, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, something like that, those waves are going to come out and impact the Carolinas and eventually down here in the Bahamas. Now, you folks down in the islands here, U.S. British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, don't look at this and go, oh, gosh, that just looks weak. I mean, I say it like you want it to be strong. People are going to poo-poo it. I'm telling you, it's coming. They're going to be like, it doesn't look like anything. It looks like garbage. And these adjectives that people use annoy me because they're not seeing the bigger picture. I don't look at this as, oh, that's a weak system. And then when you compare the two, this is strong, this is weak. Correct. That is a meteorological true statement. But this is energy in the atmosphere over 85, 86 degree water that's going to wring out a ton of moisture. And so the U.S. British Virgin Islands may be as far east as some of the northeast Caribbean islands, Anguilla, St. Bart's, maybe Antigua, but I think it's more going to be Calabria, St. Thomas, St. John, over towards Puerto Rico in vicinity, could see some very heavy rain. So you only need to look at Trinidad Tobago today to see what could be coming your way. Very, very important. All right, so that's 48 hours out. So this is roughly Tuesday morning. So Monday night into Tuesday morning rush hour in San Juan could be nasty. So be careful down there. This could dump a lot of rain. Another 24 hours out. Now we're looking at Wednesday morning, and enough troughing is out here that Jerry gets captured. There's Bermuda right there. Jerry goes away. There's the signature for Karen. Now it's starting to look more like a player. It's getting more cyclonic vorticity. It's bundling. It's bringing that energy together. However you want to slice it, it's getting there. 3 days out. 96 hours. Day 4. It's hanging on. Jerry, moving around the ridge is starting to build back in. And now things start to get really important and really interesting, and not in a good way. So there's Karen kind of waiting. Jerry gets out of the picture, and we start to see the heights build back over the western Atlantic, the eastern United States, big trough over here in the west, big ridge going to build out over this way, and Karen is going to get trapped, it looks like. So by day 5, still hanging on, kind of looking a little anemic. It's not very healthy looking in the modeling here. But to its north, surface high, pretty strong there. And, ridging out over the Atlantic, there goes Jerry. And this is stuck underneath to the south. And the flow now is going to become this way because this high is expected to build. Expected. It's not guaranteed. And we will look at days 6 and 7 here because this is very important because of what could happen. And I want to show you something to look for. And we don't go beyond that usually. The most I ever usually look at is day 7 because day 8, 9, and 10 is just too chaotic. Out a week is stretching it. That's my disclaimer. So there's day 5 at day 6. So this would be this coming Saturday morning. The high really starts to build out here over the Atlantic. And there's Karen starting to ramp up. And by day 7, Sunday morning, a week out, it really starts to come to life, losing just a little bit of latitude there, moving just south of west, it looks like, maybe by a hair. If west is 270, I mean, you can see it just as well as I can, then it's probably moving at around 265. And to the north, strong high pressure building in, westward moving, west-southwest moving tropical cyclone over very warm water, headed towards an area that just got devastated by a powerful hurricane, a historic hurricane. Yes, we need to watch this closely for obvious reasons. And this is where we really need to have people paying attention. The relief organizations, they are going to be at risk perhaps. And here we go again, the anxiety level for people in Florida, etc. So let me just finish up what this looks like, and then I want to help you to understand what we're looking at. We're going to kind of back it off a little bit. So again, this is 5,000 feet up, and the surface pressures, etc., the vorticity. This is what it looks like if you look at the atmosphere more from these heights that we call it. And, while I will admit that this is an alarming signal, this 594 ridge sitting over the southeast with Karen trapped, well placed, and that's not a positive thing, that it would just get steered towards Florida, perhaps, and the Bahamas. A lot can change, but we gotta. Sometimes you got to face the truth that yes, in about a week, we have the possibility of dealing with another hurricane somewhere in this region, or not. This is not a guarantee, and we only need to go back and look at Dorian. And we looked at the same kind of setup where it came across, and it looked like it was going to come across and do this. Remember? And it did not do that. It made it to here, and then eventually came up and clipped out like that. Of course, we remember that. But the anxiety level that it gave for people in Florida, because they do have the ability to either look it up themselves and see the modeling that brings these systems into Florida, or they see it posted on social media without context, that's where people start to get anxious and fearful. And it's not time to do that yet. It's not. This is the medical equivalent. All right, I'm going to be very frank about this. This is the medical equivalent to, you're getting a little on the heavy side. Your blood pressure is a little bit over where it should be. It's not too bad. Let's rein it in a little bit. Watch what you're eating, exercise more, less salt, whatever. And you have a chance to dial it back. Boy, don't I know about that. That's a story for another day. It's not, you're getting ready to have a heart attack, and it's time to go to the emergency room and check you in for quadruple bypass heart surgery time. We're not there yet. No reason to freak out and panic. This is just like going to the doctor for a checkup, and they give you, you know what? You got to just kind of chill out a little bit. Eat a little bit better. Exercise more. More water, less soda, stuff like that. But we're not quite to quadruple bypass, or whatever. For real. And so you get nervous going to see the doctor, who enjoys a doctor visit, But we're glad they are there, aren't we? At least we should be. The same holds true for people like me. And I'm a geographer. I am not a degreed meteorologist, but I know a lot about meteorology. The National Hurricane Center, TV meteorologist, whoever you follow, they are giving you the message that something is amiss down here in about a week, maybe. That's all it is. So do not, and I know it's easy for me to say, but please, I am not hyped up about this yet. We have time to worry later. And I don't like people worrying. That's such a bad term. It's hurricane season. We know this could happen, and let's keep an eye on it and see what develops. But don't lose sight that we have this area to worry about first. And there's that word. I said it myself. We got to deal with it down there first, and we're still dealing with it down here. This is 7 days away. All right? There's a lot that can change between now and then. You know, there's the old, maybe we get lucky and it finds the trough and heads out to sea as well. You know, maybe it bends well to the southwest, and I hate to say it for people down here, but maybe it goes to Mexico. You know, no, not Mexico. I mean, I'm not trying to send hurricanes your way. I'm just saying, please remain calm and don't go looking at 7, 8, 9, 10-day forecasts without context. All right? You got some very bright people out there that will tell you the facts and leave it at that. And, you know, I hope I'm one of them, that you can trust me. I do see this as a problem, but we got to get there first. And when is it? That's a week away. All right? So let's pay attention to what's happening, and we'll see how things evolve. And we'll take it one day at a time. The good thing is I am going to be here, okay, as one of your sources. I'm not the only person out there. I mean, come on. You know, there's plenty of other people. Take it all in and develop a consensus yourself from people that you trust. So I'll talk about this on Twitter from time to time. I'll keep doing these videos. And I post these first over on Patreon. Patreon is our way that we crowdfund what we do. And the difference that this is making this year is unbelievable. And you only need to go back and look at what we've done in Barry, and then Dorian, and then most recently here with Imelda in Houston, and some of the advances we've made. That's because of our crowdfunding with Patreon. And boy, thank you all very, very much. I do post the videos there first, and on our HurricaneTrack Insider chat. And about 15 minutes later, I make them public. So one of the benefits, if you sign up on Patreon, is you get first access. You know, if you're going to help me out, I try to do something back for you. But we also have other awesome things as well if you decide you are in the position to join Patreon in this crowdfunding effort. Check it out. We're sitting at 300 patrons right now, 300 strong, and look at what we have been able to do. And if you're a current patron, especially if you've been with me throughout the last 2 years, the improvements we have made are because of you. So just take that into consideration, will you? And it'll help me to be here, because it helps me to pay my bills as well as to fund the field work. All right? And that's about it. All right? We've covered a lot. There's a lot to take in. What I want you to do is take the rest of the day off and don't look at the tropics. I'm not. I'm going to go hang out with the kids. I'm going to do some stuff with them. I'm not going to worry about it, because worrying about it today isn't going to do anything. Let's revisit it tomorrow, shall we? Take my advice. Chill. Step away. Enjoy some NFL. Something else, family time. Whatever you do, your hobby. And we'll deal with the tropics tomorrow. All right? That's Dr. Mark's advice. No, I'm not a doctor. Anyway, have a great rest of your Sunday. I appreciate you being on that side of the screen, listening and watching what I have to say more than you will ever know. Whether or not you're a patron, doesn't matter. I love the fact that you are there. The patrons help support it, yes, but all of you that watch this and comment and contribute with your thoughts and questions, I thank you. Have a good one. I am Mark Sept, HurricaneTrack.com. We will reconvene here tomorrow and see what happens for the week ahead.